What's going on, everybody? It's Dr. Chris Featherstone here for you. Another episode of UnSKripted. Listen, it's Tuesday night. You know what that means. I have some of the biggest, the baddest, the best wrestlers of today and yesteryear. And guess what? Tonight is no different. Why? You always ask me that question every week. Today's no different because we have the champion of champions, ladies and gentlemen. You know, I've been a wrestling fan, as many know, for 36 years. I think as long as this guy's been alive, I think actually. I promise I'm not too much older than he is, I promise. But at the same time, I was a little kid when I started watching wrestling. And it's I'm a traditional wrestling fan. I love traditional wrestling. I love wrestlers that look like wrestlers, that look regal and look cavalier and look like they just breathe a different type of air. And this guy has that aura to him that he just breathes a different type of air and his wrestling character. And I love that. I love those type of wrestlers. I'm a big fan of that. And there was a company that, he was basically the face of for a long time. And he had that different type of air. He's been champion in many promotions, ladies and gentlemen, and he's not done yet. He's still there's a big thing coming up, big event coming up in a few weeks. He's going to continue to be the workhorse that he is, ladies and gentlemen. He's going to continue to breathe that different type of air that only him and a few other people can share that air with him, but not many. Ladies and gentlemen, he is Nick Aldis. How are you tonight,
Doctor? I don't know what to say. I mean, let's just tie a bow on it now. I mean, I can't follow that. Nothing will take me higher than that, and I appreciate that very much. I don't feel like I'm breathing rarefied air right now. This is past my bedtime. Yeah, indeed, dude, I'm a dad. I'm a dad when I'm not wrestling. I'm a dad, and it's way past my bedtime.
I hear you, man. I'm a night owl, man. I've got three.
I used to be Mickey. Mickey's a night owl, so it's kind of like, yeah. And I'm an early riser now. I usually get up about 5 a.m. and kind of get some work done and stuff before the school stuff and everything starts, because I'm better at locking in and getting on with my work, like running the business and stuff like that. I'm better at doing that as soon as I wake up, like no distractions, just straight to it, get some deep work done, and then I can sort of work out and figure out the rest of my day.
Yeah. It's interesting because a lot of people are either those early risers or the night owls. I'm a night owl, and I kind of have that same type of mindset. I usually go to sleep between 12 and 2, although I have to be up at 7:15 in the morning with 3 kids. You know what I mean? Right. And school and stuff like that. Although my wife does a fantastic job doing that. It's still interesting. I'm a therapist, so I still got to get up early and get ready and start with my clients. But I'm still sleep between 12 and 2, because similar to what you're talking about with the 5 o'clock, I'm like that with like 1:30 a.m. Just the world is asleep. Everybody's just kind of resting, and that's the time that I just kind of recharge. I'm reading, I'm thinking, I'm just reflecting, I'm doing all those things, and so I love it.
That's what Mickey's like for sure.
Good stuff. Before we get into these questions, man, you've got a big event coming up in a few weeks.
Yeah, Contest of Champions in Toms River, New Jersey. I'm very excited about this event. It's a really great lineup, and I can't remember. I know that there's some fundraising involved with the show, and I forget what the cause is now, so I apologize. But it's a great group of guys who are putting it together, and the lineup is, it's really high quality. It's I know that Matt Cardona is going to be there, Tommy Dreamer is going to be there, Sergeant Slaughter, Addies, Maggots. Sarge is going to be there. Sting is going to be there, right? Did I see that right? That Stinger is going to be there.
He's going to be there.
I mean, come on, man. This is high level stuff. So I'm blessed to be a part of it.
Good stuff, man. Good stuff. And that's December 3rd, right?
Yes. Yeah. December 3rd, Toms River, New Jersey.
Fantastic. All right, man. Before we before we get into these questions, man, anything else coming up the pike that you want to plug?
No, I will say that fans in the New York area, I did just confirm a date for another date for December. And it looks like I'm going to be wrestling a guy who I have wanted to get in there with for a very, very long time. So keep an eye out on my socials for the next couple of days for when that gets official announced. Because I'm looking forward to that one, and that one will be. That's another good show with. I think it's going to have a high quality lineup. But yeah, this guy I've wanted to mix it up with him for a long, long time.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
and clearly he's purposely not saying the guy's name just to whet your appetite.
Look! I'm business, man. Hey, the promotion. We just confirmed it today. Actually, me and the promoters. So
good stuff.
Yeah,
good stuff. All right, so you ready to dive into these questions?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, Rarito's asking, who were your idols growing up in wrestling, and what was your toughest feud?
Idols growing up. So anyone who's heard me or followed me, closely will know that Bret Hart was my guy. Very much a Hitman fan. I think he was the first wrestler that, as a kid, I thought, oh, he's the coolest one. He was cool. Like, there was something about Bret. He felt younger and fresher, and just he felt more cool. Like, he didn't, maybe it's because I'm British and we lean to be a little towards being a bit more understated. But I remember being able to identify that. I knew Hulk Hogan was the biggest name. I knew Hogan was, everyone knew who Hulk Hogan was. And I loved Ultimate Warrior like a lot of kids did. Like, he was, but guys like that, don't get me wrong, like that's a major part of the business. And especially at that period of time, it was, that was definitely the flavor that people wanted. But maybe because I was a big sports kid. My dad was a rugby player, and I played all kinds of sports. I was the youngest brother, so I was super competitive, always trying to play sports. Did everything. I mean, football, swimming, judo, tennis. I mean, just on and on and on. And Bret, I don't know, he had that feeling of, he felt more like a pro athlete. Mm-hmm. Like, he had that sort of vibe about him, he was taking it seriously, and it was like you didn't. And I think later on, I thought about this. I think when I was younger, it was kind of like you weren't quite as embarrassed, by Bret. Like, as if you had people like my mum and dad watch wrestling, and what's this, and if you got like a crazed lunatic who's like, super tan and oiled up and screaming at screaming down the camera, like, we think that's cool, but like, it's not as easy to justify to someone who, but like Bret, you could see people kind of go, oh, he's kind of cool,
Yeah, relatable. Yeah.
So Bret was probably the first one. And then obviously, as I progressed and started to sort of, once I really sort of articulated, like, I love the business. And I think I want to do this. Maybe I, started sort of formulating that thing. Mm-hmm. That was around the time where Rock was the man, like 2000, Rock and Triple H, mm-hmm. like the Attitude Era and stuff. That was captivating me, but I was like a young, I think, I was sort of 12, 13 as that was sort of coming up. Mm-hmm. So hadn't quite got to, I was completely enamored by it, but I wasn't yet getting to that point where I was going, I think I might want to do this. That was probably 2000. So it was like Rock and Triple H were the two guys that I was, just completely enamored with. And those are the guys that sort of made me go, I want to be like that.
Yeah. Nice.
And he asked about my toughest, did he say toughest feud?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends how you mean by tough. I mean, obviously, the rivalry with Cody is brought up a lot. I mean, it was very, very even, very competitive. Probably the most competitive feud, because like we competed on everything, and obviously we have one victory each. So, I guess that one is probably the most like, what's the word? stalemate-ish, you know. It's
There
the
you
one
go.
that's kind of like locked horns, you know,
Yeah.
no conclusion.
Gridlocked. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting with the Bret Hart thing. You know, growing up being a Bret Hart fan, I'm a sucker for good theme songs, Nick. And
Dude, we were just talking about this. Like, so
I
there
love
was
good
some
theme
clip of
songs.
because
Yeah.
it's because 25 years since Montreal, and so there's been all these clips going around, and like
Mhm.
I heard Mickey was around, and it was, you know, Bret's entrance stuff, and I was just saying, you
It's
just
amazing.
like
Yeah.
that music, man, was
Yep.
just
Yep.
it's
That
so
guitar
important.
strumming and
Yeah,
do you remember that commercial when the little boy
the
was
little kid. Yeah,
"Bret," you know,
yeah,
in the
yeah.
shades. Yeah, I remember that vividly. So
100%. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is like he had that different kind of aura to him,
mhm.
you know, like a sort of like more of an athlete. Like he, you know, really felt like someone that, you know, you could look up to,
Yeah.
like a role model, you know.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Kelvin's asking, Helena, big fan. How was being a part of the main event Mafia with Kurt Angle, Sting, and Samoa Joe?
Just very, very flattering. You know, I always felt out of place. I remember when I was told I was going to be in it, and I remember just thinking, that can't be right. You know, I'm not like I'm not there yet. And then it was, you know, Sting and Kurt and stuff had sat, you know, they sat me down with the creative team and said, no, like here's what we're going for. Like we don't want it to be like the last main event Mafia. We want this one to be different. We want this one to be like past, present, future.
Mhm.
You know, and obviously again that's a, you know, major compliment. And it was you know, it was a really fun part of my run there because
Yeah.
because I got the rub, you know. I mean, it worked. It was I got the rub from those guys. Like that was a good example of when doing something like that really helped.
Yeah.
I had got the rub from Joe, like totally got the rub from Joe in the leading up to that. And then that was a sort of continuation of it where it was kind of like, okay, he got the rub from Joe. He kind of held his own. Okay, now let's go a step further. And a lot of that was Sting. Sting always spoke up for me.
Yeah.
He was always really good about that
Stuff. Now, who was a part of the creative around that time?
David Lagana. I'm trying to think. So it was right around the time that it was transitioning from, like, Eric Bischoff was still there.
Okay.
But it was John Gaburik.
Yeah, I was going to ask. Was big.
Big had just got there. Like he had just got there. Like he came in. His first day was in. I remember we were in Louisville, and that was his first day. And like I remember because, you know, we had like a one-on-one. He took me to the side and said, like, you know, I'm going to give you a big push. Nice. Or was that because I was kind of already heading that way, and he kind of went, you know, I just want you to know, like, I'm you know, I'm all about this, and, you know, whatever. And I just kind of went, yeah, I won't let you down. Nice. Yeah, so I think he was. Bruce was there too, because I remember being quite nervous about the promo, the debut of the Mafia stuff, and it was in Vegas, and I remember that I was, you know, I really knew that it was sort of like I had one chance to get it right, and it was a sink or swim sort of thing. And I remember coming back and Bruce being like, nailed it, you know, like, great job on the promo. And I was like, whew, you know, because it's scary when you've got, you know, 3 stars.
Yeah. And
they're already out in the ring, and now they're going to go, and the 4th guy is, you know, I was sitting there going, like, this could be a massive popcorn fart, you know. Yeah. And luckily it wasn't. I mean, you know, it wasn't like it blew the roof off the place either, but it got a positive enough response where I went, oh, okay, cool. And then I had cut a good enough promo. I was always confident enough in my mic skills, you know, so I was kind of like, as long as they didn't totally fart on me on the way out, I was like, okay, cool. And then I had the promo, and the promo kind of, you know, sealed it. So then we were all right. We're off to the races.
Very nice. Aaron's asking, I was in Fairfax, Virginia for the ROH TV taping leading up to All In. As a fan, your program with Cody was so much fun. How much fun was it for you? You briefly spoke on that, but what are the chances of seeing a rubber match? He asks.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's always a chance. Obviously, something pretty significant would have to happen for that to be a possibility currently. I loved that angle. That to me is the most enjoyable stretch in my career, because I'll tell you why, because it felt like it really had this sort of old school feel to it. Not because of what we did, because I thought what we did was actually pretty cutting edge. Like the way we did it, like I thought a lot of it was pretty innovative. But the fact that it was like there wasn't this plan, it wasn't a creative team, and there wasn't this sort of multi-million-dollar marketing machine behind it and creating all this stuff. It was he and I, and we were just sort of just going by the seat of our pants. Do you know what I mean? Like, where should we go next? What about this? Yeah, now let's do this. This will keep it going. It was all very organic, and it felt more like how they would have done. Like, it felt more like how somebody like Harley Race or Dusty or Rick or something would have done a program with each other when, if they were working in a territory or something. Like, let's see how they react. Okay, right now let's do this. Oh, they're biting on it. Let's capitalize on it. Hey, what about this? There was we just knew the finish line. We just knew, like, we know what we want to get to, right? We know what the moment is. As I just remember, that was it. It really taught me a lot, like, in terms of, it really gave me this epiphany of, like, if you always focus on, like, what's the moment at the end of this, right? Like, what's the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow? If you don't lose sight of that, you'll always end up doing something good. If the thing at the end is, like, worthwhile. And I think so often in wrestling, it's so easy to just overthink stuff and overcomplicate stuff and tinker with it too much, or try to start with too much and not let the people kind of tell you, like, we're digging this, right? Like, we're feeling this over here. And then you go, okay, cool, they're feeling that. So, like, how do we go with them, right? To me, I always feel like it should be a very symbiotic relationship between, like, the booker and the audience, because you're kind of like, what are you digging? Okay, I'm picking up what you're putting down, like, and then, all right, cool, right, let's go over here. So, and that's how we did it, and it obviously there's just no better feeling than when it works. So, and that worked.
What's the fine line with that, though? Like, it's one of those things that fans can be a bit fickle at times.
Yeah.
And, just kind of oscillating quite a bit. And so keeping the eyes on the end game versus organically just kind of feeling what the pulse of the crowd is, that has to be a very, very, it's kind of fine type of detection there.
Yeah, you're right. I think it starts with how over someone is.
Sure.
And Cody was over. And look, I'm not. I feel like I have a very realistic assessment of that whole situation, but I think the reason it worked is because by the time we got to Chicago, I was considered credible, to a similar degree.
Sure. Yeah. It
would not have worked. It would not have had the feeling. It certainly wouldn't be something people are still talking about. What are we now? 4 years later, it would not be something people are still talking about if it hadn't been special to a degree.
Yeah.
And I think a big part of that was because it could have very easily been a coronation for him. It could have very easily just been, I just showed up and just, been a sort of necessary part of the equation, right? To just sort of, okay, here you go, here's your moment.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the pressure was on me to sort of build myself up and try to establish as much credibility as I could. So by the time we got there, people were like, I don't know if he's going to win this. You know, I think that this might, like, I don't know which way this is going to go. That's basically the perfect storm you can have when you're booking, is you have an outcome that people want. Because that's, to your point, that's probably the hardest thing sometimes. Sometimes you go, I don't know what the audience wants the outcome of this to be. You know, do they want that guy to win? Right. Or do they want this guy to win? Especially now, because we have a lot of like what I call dream match booking, which is like, they've just thought about, oh, this guy versus this guy would be a great match. Okay, cool. But like, what's beyond that? Yeah. Like, that's cool once, but what about next time? Yep. You know, like the really great matches are the ones where you've got two guys who have that level of chemistry, but also you're really invested in who wins. And so in our case, it was like, it was a perfect storm. Like, people went, wow, I'd love to see Cody win that belt because of his father and how much it means to him. And look, Dusty, and I think that, you know, Dusty having passed away, you know, added to it. It all, because it was real, Chris. Do you know what I mean? It was all real. Like, but it wasn't real in a distasteful way. It wasn't like, we weren't doing like a work shoot, you know. It was, we were going, no, it does mean a lot to me. Yeah. And no, dude, you are trying to take away this. Yeah, it's like, like we did this thing where I remember when Cody and I were kind of discussing it once, and I said, kind of boils down to like, you're trying to do this for your father, and I'm trying to do this as a father, right? Because I had my son was, you know, young. Then he was a toddler. He's like 3, I think, 3 or 4. So it's like I would say one of the interviews I did, I remember saying, like, everything you want to achieve as a son, I want to achieve as a father. So just understand that, you know, it means as much to me as it does to you, right? Like, in other words, you're part of a dynasty. Like, I'm trying to build a dynasty. And it was all like, so there's nothing in it that was pretentious. It was real. And I'm going like, yeah, you want to take this from me, and I've done all this work to build this thing. And, you know, I get that you want this moment because I understand that it means a lot to you too. Like, nobody could hear any of that and go, oh, well, that's a wrestling angle. Right. Yeah. Right. They could hear, that's real. But I wasn't going, oh, you know, you're this and you're that. Yeah. Like, we had a lot of mutual respect, and I think that was another part of it. I think that captivated people was like, these guys aren't going out and trashing each other. I see so much of that now. Like, just two wrestlers just go out and just trash each other. Yeah. And I go, okay, well, like, why would anyone buy a ticket? You know, you got to build each other up as well. Yeah. Like, you got to build each other up and then explain, like, as good as you are, I'm better. You know.
Yeah, that's not a respect factor there anymore. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, I'm just going to tear you down and just have those promos and tearing it down before, you know, the match. You're supposed to respect. There's a level of respect that you're supposed to build each other up.
I think sometimes it's very easy to just go straight to, I want to win. You know, I want to win the promo battle. I want to win the argument. Like, it's a rap, and they forget the fact that I see. So sometimes I think, you know, it's okay to put somebody over in a promo segment too. Sometimes, like, it's not just the match, right? Like, you know, it's kind of like, and I feel like sometimes with promo segments, I feel like guys forget the fact that, well, you know, you can kind of trade it back and forth with each other, like the same way you do with matches.
Because the bigger you make them look, if you beat them, you look bigger. You know what I mean? So if you bring them down,
there's a real sort of, like, this is really quick funny story. Like, I remember, do you remember, I don't know how much you followed TNA, but like, there was a very short-lived tag team with me and Nigel McGuinness.
Oh yeah.
They put us together for like, and people were like excited about it. We did a couple of vignettes. We went to the mall and we had Chelsea, and like, it was sort of like, it was a bit like random, but then we, you know, it had something. We, you know, and obviously, unfortunately, it got cut short because of Nigel having to, you know, retire or whatever. But I remember we were getting ready to do an angle with the machine guns, which I thought was great because it was a really good contrast. Like, I personally really think styles make fights. You know, I believe in that philosophy with wrestling too. Like, I think it's, you know, I think David versus Goliath is better than Goliath versus Goliath, you know, or David versus David. but we had this segment with the Machine Guns, and I love both those guys. And we were kind of just kicking around ideas for it. And I remember I thought of this funny line that they could say to us, you know, to like humiliate us as the heels. And I remember saying to Chris Sabin, being like, hey, why don't you say, like, I've got what the line is about, like tag teaming each other or something, like, so, you know, something that was kind of like, because there was sort of seeds of who, you know, Chelsea, like, who's she into? And Nigel was like, I'm a big lady. It was something like that, right? But I've thought of some line that would totally, you know, humiliate us. And I remember Josh being like, are you cool with me saying that? And I went, yeah, I gave it, like, that's why I said it, because it'll get a good pop.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, I think, and I was like, well, yeah, it's just because, like, I'm a heel. Like, yeah, humiliate me. Like, I'll be mad about it.
Yep.
You know, that's kind of the point.
Good stuff. All right, 2-minute lightning round here. Let's fire away with these questions. Elvis is asking, hey, champ, what's the best quality you enjoy about your lovely wife, and who should induct her into the WWE Hall of Fame when she gets the call?
Well, she has a lot of qualities. I think for me, her positivity, her, you know, her just absolute kind of her resolute belief that, you know, she can make something work, or we can, you know, that everything's going to be fine. We're going to make this work. We're going to, you know, everything's going to be great. Like, that's probably my favorite quality about her.
Nice.
And as far as the Hall of Fame, I would like to think that she would have a say in it, but it's hard to imagine anyone before Trish, you know, doing it.
Nice. Yep. Guillermo, how was winning your first world title from Jeff Hardy and becoming the first British-born world champion for a major company in over 100 years?
It was obviously, like, well, you know, as you've mentioned in the question, very flattering. And it meant a huge amount to me, still does. You know, that Big and Dixie and you know, everybody in management there, you know, had the faith in me to do it. And obviously Jeff, you know, it was a bittersweet. It's a bit of a weird, I got a concussion in that match. And so, you know, it was the first time I'd ever had a concussion. And I remember, you know, and it was like, I was having to process it. But yeah, I mean, overall, like, you know, I'm very proud of it.
Very nice. Charlotte's been a huge fan for years. I would like to know who's your number one influence in the ring.
I would probably say Brett, but it's Brett, it's Rick, it's Harley, it's Triple H, it's Nick Bockwinkel, Scott Hall, Kurt Hennig, but Brett probably, you know, wins out the most.
Okay. Very nice. Let's see. A couple more quick ones. A lot of people are asking what's next for Nick Aldis. Yeah, let's
free agency. Free agency. That's it, dude. You know, I know it's been suggested that, you know, that there must be something else, and it's no. I like, truthfully, I want to explore free agency. I want to just be, you know, free of, you know, a contract and sort of, you know, a certain brand commitment, you know, like a sort of a branding of any kind for a minute, and just see what comes next. Yeah.
You want to be, in other words, you want to be a true independent contractor.
Yeah. Just, it was, you know, just it was just time to move on. That's all.
Sure. Yeah. You know, that's the joy of freelancing, man.
Right.
Yeah.
You know, I have other businesses. I have, you know, Legacy Sports Nutrition, and we have some other businesses that we're working on. And it's so, and, you know, as far as wrestling, it's like, at this point, I feel like I can deliver, you know, wherever. And I just love the business. And I, you know, I feel like I can contribute to a pretty high level. So it's just a case of, but at the same time, if I'm going to spend time away from my son and I'm going to take bumps, I've got to be feeling it. It's got to be something that I'm passionate about. I've got to be feeling it, and I've got to feel like it's going somewhere. That's it, dude.
Yeah. Make it count. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good stuff. One more plug for December 3rd, and where to find you on your socials to let you know to stay abreast of what's going on in the world of Nick Aldis, especially some type of special announcement of you working with somebody.
I wish I could take, but I don't want to take that away from the promotion for
Sure,
me.
fair enough.
Put it out first, but yeah, Contest of Champions. I'm very much looking forward to this. Tom's River, New Jersey. I'm wrestling Sean Donovan, who's a very experienced guy. Probably deserves more attention than he's had, and hey, maybe he'll get it. And like I said, big lineup, lot of big names, and I think it's going to be a really good night. The guys involved in this know their pro wrestling, and they'll believe in what they're doing, and I believe in what they're doing. It'll be a great show.
Good stuff. And social plugs.
Socials. I'm on Twitter at Real Nick Aldis, and then on Instagram at Nick Aldis. I'm verified on both. I didn't pay for it. They're verified on both, so look for that. But don't get fooled, all right? If there's any fakes out there, right? Don't come crying to me.
Yes, indeed. Nick, it's been a pleasure, man. Good chatting with you again.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, Doctor.
Have a good one.
See you.
Bye-bye.